Hey, what's going on, guys? Gaming Gardevoir here, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. Now, I may not be a film buff, but I surely know good design when I see it, which is why I'm going to be going over...
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants.
That's right, the Spongebob movie. I'm going to begin this by saying this movie was my childhood. And I bet it was a part of yours as well. I find myself returning to this film again and again, singing along to the Goofy Goober theme song and rocking out to the, well, Goofy Goober rock. With that out of the way, let's get into what exactly makes this movie so well designed. When it comes to films and media in general, color is probably one of the most important things. It attracts attention to details and enhances the overall aesthetic when it's used properly. One thing I noticed about the movie as opposed to the TV show is that the colors are a lot more saturated, which I like to connect to the director's intention of this movie being the series finale. Rest in peace, Steve. Because it gives us a look into how the characters have evolved between the time of the series and the time of the movie. Another important example is shown during the trek to Shell City, where our plucky heroes start to stick out like two thumbs down against the dark and foreboding backgrounds. It really builds up the sense that they don't belong here, but we're rooting for them to push through despite that. Which moves me on to the next topic. Most people seem to overlook this concept, which might actually end up being on par with color itself in importance. Where color represents the action that's drawn to the screen, negative space refers to that which is not animated in the scene. You can see it in scenes like this one where they can't find the road.
Road. Sorry.
As I was saying, as you can see, the camera zooms out and we get to see how big the trench is. From this point of view, we can see how small the characters look in comparison to the empty area around them. That's negative space at work. By putting less movement into the backgrounds, we get an understanding of how barren this area actually is. It really frames our characters within their never-ending journey and puts them in... See what I did there? Proportion is about how big or small something is in comparison to another. I bring up this principle because we actually see a change in proportion about 2/3 in the movie. You see, in the first half of the film, we only see these characters in their native environment. They're evenly sized for their houses and roads and boatmobiles. I always mistook this for being a universe where the anthropomorphic fish are human-sized. But this view gets shifted when we're introduced to Bigger Boot, a human diver that the fish mistake for a giant cyclops. After he takes the heroes to Shell City, we realize that it's no giant at all, and that it was actually our main cast who was tiny the whole time. And if you need any more proof that Bigger Boot was human and not some monster in disguise, just look who delivers our friends back home.
I'm David Hasselhoff.
Did I mention the celebrity cast in this thing? We've got Clancy Brown from Highlanders.
I have something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Bill Fagerbakke from Coach.
One little thing can change a whole movie, like in Forrest Gump. If his bus comes right away, there's no movie.
And Tom Kenny from basically every show in your childhood. I can't play a clip to do that man any justice. Now let's look at the next principle. Contrast refers to making things stick out. And boy howdy does this movie stick out against its counterpart. Throughout the movie, we're constantly reminded of the dire situation where Plankton framed Mr. Krabs for stealing Neptune's crown, and is going to be killed if SpongeBob can't get it back in 10 days.
He can do it in 9, 8, 7, 6. 6 it is then.
Okay, 6 days. Anyway, this sort of serious crime is a big deviation from what we see in the show, where Plankton tries to get the Krabby Patty formula with more humorous plans that manage to fail horribly. That's another thing. Plankton never won in the show, so seeing his success in the middle of the movie was a big deal for everyone. Speaking of big deal, the biggest subversion of expectations shows up in a scene where our pair do end up reaching Shell City.
Goofy! Goofy! Goober! Goober!
To this day, I can't help but tear up at the sight of our main protagonists, characters that I've been attached to my whole life, just drying up in a slow and painful death. I mean, I know that they end up revived afterwards, but it still manages to stab my heart anyway. This is an absolutely massive contrast to the lighthearted TV show. This movie pulled all of the stops out when it came to making a standout movie, which is fitting for an intended send-off. If I could choose just one principle to describe the movie, this one is it. There's still one more concept to go over, though, which is immersion is about dragging the viewer into the world of the movie, and I think the sound design in this movie really helps with making it possible. Listen to the noises associated with these movements.
I'm ready for motion. I'm ready for motion.
Congratulations, buddy!
Oh, thanks, Patrick. And tonight, after my big promotion, we're gonna party till we're purple.
Those rippling, splashing, dripping noises drag you into the world under the sea with the rest of the crew. You can also see some brain-capturing animation here.
I'm busy planning to rule the world!
See how all those bubbles pop out and float to the surface? You can tell that the animators and the sound crew were working very closely with each other to make sure that the viewer knew that they were actually underwater. When an animated film is able to put this much emphasis on the location with such simple cues, it just amazes me. It makes me feel like I'm a part of that world.